Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Bob here, and as you can see, we're back in Everquest today. This is not just an Everquest video. This is more of sort of a channel update news video with some Everquest gameplay. First of all, I'll just sort of say what the whole point is that I'm not doing here with another new class. This is I've got a Dwarf Cleric, and what I'm planning on doing is trying to take myself out of my comfort zone. It's a bit like the whole monk sort of series that I know sort of seems to have failed miserably at the moment, but maybe I'll get back to that. I sort of did give my reasoning on that in the previous video. But there was something else I've been sort of wanting to do in Everquest for sort of few weeks now. You know, it's since I've been sort of struggling with classes and stuff. Is to play a class that sort of completely takes me out of my comfort zone, and a class that is just better and more efficient in grouping. Rather than sort of playing solo, and I sort of wondered how I'd get on. You know, you sort of force yourself into a position that you're sort of uncomfortable with, and see how you get on. So my plan with this class, I mean, I don't know. This might be the only video that you see Folly the Cleric in. No, I just don't know. I'm not gonna promise anything because I don't want to disappoint you. But yeah, but the whole point is to take me right out of my comfort zone and play a class where it just makes more sense to level and in a group, just playing a group, a more social class, and see how I get on. A bit of a test for myself, and yeah, and I think maybe you will see a bit more of this, you know, because I'd like to sort of it's something that I'm quite interested in, you know, the psychology behind sort of, you know, me sort of being a bit adverse to grouping, and you know what sort of causes that. I think it might be quite an interesting just experiment on myself. So we'll see how we get on. But that's the point of the class. I love dwarves, so that's the point of the race. But as I said, I can't promise anything. But maybe it's something we can sort of expand upon. My plan is to abuse the bone chip quest for as long as I can. That's pretty awesome. There's no negative faction hits, which is good, and yeah. And so far, I mean, I've turned in a few chips so far, and it seems to be pretty good on the experience front. So I'll keep doing that for a while. Hopefully, I can find some higher level skeletons that I can just carry on getting experience from, and bone chips. We'll have to see how we go. But yeah, so that's what we're currently doing here. And obviously for you guys, it's a bit of a different environment. We're just seeing something different. No, that's a good thing for all of us. Anyway, on to the point of the video. I mean, I'm not even sure if it's worth pointing out, but quite recently I've kind of changed a few things with the channel. I kind of tried to change the name, but that didn't work out particularly well. I need to go and buy a direct damage spell, so when things run away I can just blow it up. But yes, yeah, so I've sort of I changed the icon, and I'm not sure if anyone looks at the front page. But I changed the title as well, sort of to massively casual. Oh, what's that? What's he dropped there? Some mead. Oh, okay, I don't think that's anything particularly super duper, so we'll leave that. Yeah, I changed the title to massively casual. Now, what I've for some time now, I've been wanting to change the channel, and at one point I even sort of considered maybe just creating a new channel. I've kind of been wanting to do more with the channel. The problem is that that's never really what the channel's been about. You know, I started doing Everquest videos. Sorry, I started doing gaming videos in general, but because I enjoyed doing it, and it's good for me. You know, gets me out, gets me out of the house, as they say. Yeah, and up to this point, that's all I've been interested in doing. It means that the channel's has been very there's been no structure and been very sort of haphazard. You know, I just sort of record videos, or I have been recording videos of games I've kind of been playing. I don't know if it's midlife crisis or not, but I've got to a point where I've been thinking about wanting to do more with the channel. And as I say, I'm not sure if it's just a passing fad or whatnot, but it's yeah. I've never. I hate the YouTube memes that have sprung up, particularly around game channels, where you know, people sort of take pictures of themselves, their pictures of their ugly faces, pulling, gurning and pulling stupid faces, and then putting them at the front of their videos. That seems to be a popular thing at the moment. You know, a big YouTube trope. And that's the sort of thing I hate, and that's kind of why I've liked the channel sort of being as it has been since I started doing it, because I just avoid all that. Not that I would ever do it anyway, but it's easier to avoid those kind of traps when you set up your video is as it is at the moment. But I have been, as I said, I don't know if it's midlife crisis, but I have been thinking to myself, maybe I'd quite like to do something a bit different with the channel, maybe grow it, that kind of thing. So yeah, so I'm not sure if anyone's noticed the changes to the title and stuff. I'm not even sure if I'm going to do it, to be honest with you. I mean, I will let you know if I'm going to first, because I know that certainly early on in the channel's life, you know, some people quite like the channel because there wasn't any of that. And even if I did do it, it would be quite subtle. As I said, no stupid faces, no stupid face pulling. It would be, I would try and sort of try and make sure that it has as less impact as possible on the channel. But as I said, it might not happen. I don't know. You know, you go through these periods at my age where you think, oh, I quite like to do that, and you never get around to it. I kind of almost wanted the channel to build naturally on its own, without me doing anything at all, particularly on that front, because I'm not a good self-publicist. But I don't think it works like that on YouTube. I think if you get to a point where you feel that you want to do more, I think essentially you have to kind of ask for it in a way to a certain extent. But I'm not sure if I want to do that. We'll see how it goes. But I will mention it beforehand. The whole massively casual thing is I've sort of over the last few years I've found myself just being less and less interested in AAA games. I mean, there are so many channels doing sort of AAA Let's Plays and stuff as well that, yeah, is that guy going to come chase me down here? No, he's not, he's gone. Okay. Yeah, I found myself sort of just less and less interested in recording AAA games. So many people do it, and I've got to a point where I don't even really like them that much. I'm kind of a bit bored of them. And the games I find myself playing, sort of flitting between, are MMOs, but massive games as well. There could be single player games like Skyrim. I've recently played sort of Far Cry 3. I love those games, and the reason I think I like them probably is because if the story in the game is shit, which well, certainly if the story is crap, in relation to Far Cry 3, absolutely awful, and I wanted to stab myself in the knees with forks by the end of the story. It was just, oh God, I hated it. But what I liked about it was the fact that I could go off and do my own thing. I didn't have to worry about the crap story. You know, I could go and liberate towns and, you know, upgrade my wallet and that kind of thing, and then that's what I spent a lot of my time doing. So those are the sort of games that I sort of find myself just moving towards now. You know, games where I love MMOs because of the worlds. Really, I love wandering around the worlds, exploring. I think that's probably why my characters don't get very far, because I'm not particularly interested in how far my character gets. I just like to be in the world, you know, for whatever reason. It's weird. It's really weird, but I'm a bit of an explorer. I'm not sure if anyone ever did that. Was it Raf Costa, one of the sort of the head developers on Ultra Online when it came out? But he kind of had a test to tell you what sort of MMO player you were, and I was always an explorer. Yeah, I just love running around in these environments. You know, it doesn't even have to be anyone else here. It's weird. I don't quite know why, but it's a massive attraction, and that's why I like the single player sort of massive games as well, like Skyrim, that kind of thing, because it's I'm in a world and experiencing a world. You know, almost living and breathing. Sometimes some of them are. But that's sort of. But that was the point of the channel, because I also play these games quite casually. When I say casually, I don't mean from a time point of view. You know, my kids are sort of at work or in sixth form, sort of off doing their own thing. My wife's very understanding of my gaming habit, so I actually get quite a few hours a week to play games in. But I do feel that I'm a casual gamer. You know, I'm not. Maybe it's because of the type of games I play, but I don't sit down anymore on one game and go massively hardcore on it. You know, I just devote all of my time to it. I kind of flit around different games. So when I say casual, I think that's probably what I mean, rather than the amount of time I have, but just how I experience the game and sort of how I play it. Yeah, so that was the whole idea behind the channel. It was to play these big massive games in a casual way, and I guess I was kind of I guess I was kind of copying the Casual Stroll to Mordor Lord of the Rings Online blog, sort of playing Lord of the Rings Online sort of casually. Well, I think they called it a hardcore look at Lord of the Rings Online, but from a casual point of view, and that's kind of what I was thinking about maybe going with on the channel, because I'm all of my time is spent playing this type of game anyway, and it might have been quite interesting just to do just from a casual point of view, just to see how you can get on in these games and have lots of discussion about it. But I'm not sure, but I have to see. I'm not sure if that's, maybe I'll do that anyway. And then if I decide to try to promote the channel a bit more, then I'll do that as well. So yeah, from now on I'm going to call the channel Massively Casual, and essentially it'll be based on massive sort of games, but playing them how I play them, instead of giving my daft opinions on them. One more thing on that, that's probably it mostly for the channel side of things. One more thing from a channel point of view is I was looking at the sort of some videos recently, and I was going to say sort of what I was going to ask to the people that watch my videos, kind of what you like watching, what sort of things you like watching. Obviously Everquest, that seems to be the most popular series, popular game that I cover. And I've noticed that I've picked up quite a lot of the channel has kind of grown a little bit actually recently, naturally, without me doing anything, and I think that's probably because of Everquest. So, but I'd like to know what sort of people like watching. I mean, do people like watching anything and just listen to me talking? Is it a certain game that you like to see gameplay of? Is it worth me sort of expanding and covering other games? I mean, I did a couple of videos on Neverwinter recently. Do people want to see more videos of that? Should I just do it anyway? Carry on doing it as I have been doing it, and just do the games that I've been doing without sort of worrying about what people want to watch sort of too much, because I think there's as I said, I'm not making any promises, because I think there's a danger of when you ask people what they want to watch and you give it to them. I think you then find yourself in a situation where you're under more pressure to keep giving them what they want, and I'm not sure I'd kind of want that for the channel. But certainly, I mean, if anyone's has got any comments on what they like to watch, it's kind of like a bit of a survey, I guess. If you've got any comments on what the games you watch on the channel and why you watch them, that would be quite interesting for me to know. But that's it. So please do comment if you've got an opinion on that, because I think even if I don't decide to do much with the channel, I think it's just quite useful to know. It's is it worth covering certain games? If not, well, I won't bother really. It's I mean, I'm probably playing them or having a look at them, but yeah, if it's not really worth it, then maybe just not. But yeah, that's it for the channel from the channel perspective. As I said, if you've got any opinions on what I've said, please let me know, because I'm interested regardless of what I do with the channel. I mean, so when I first started doing the channel, someone said to me that they quite enjoyed it because I wasn't a screaming teenager making lots of squeaks and noises and trying to be obviously trying to appeal to a certain audience, but just not being very particularly good at acting, I think was the thing. So I mean, if you watch a channel, if you watch a channel just because I'm a bit of an old git, and I'm not a wailing teenager then, or young person, then yeah, that's fair enough. I can understand that. Although there are some super duper young people doing gaming YouTube videos. Certainly not nothing against them, but that was just a comment that someone made way back when I first started doing the channel. So that's enough of channel stuff. Let's move on to Everquest stuff. As I said, this might become a bit of a project. Oh, there's a goblin with a torch there. Awesome. Yeah, this might become a bit of a project. We'll have to see how it goes. But I with this character, whether I'm doing a recording or not, I'm trying to sort of put myself in a position where I'm out of the comfort zone. I think I mentioned that, and I do. I mean, it's weird. Part of the problem with grouping, I think, is that I'm not quite sure what role I enjoy. I'm not sure if that's something that other people experience. But what I do know is I do like to be at the back, orchestrating things to a certain extent. I think that's why I chose the Enchanter. The problem with the Enchanter, though, is that there's quite I know with a healer, ultimately, it's there's a certain amount of pressure, but I think the mechanics of the Enchanter were such that although I think I'd be capable of doing it, I was a bit scared about grouping with. I'm a bit scared about grouping with my Enchanter. I think they're quite complex, and there's a lot of different things you can do. And I think if you're not doing all of them, you're not playing efficiently. Whereas healing is obviously very, very important. Yeah, I think all you're doing is healing. That's to a certain extent. That's all you've got to worry about is the health bars, making sure you're healing, at the right times. You know, I mean, a badly timed heal can be just as bad as as mucking up mezzes with an enchanter. But yeah, I think all you've got to concentrate is on the healing, maybe a bit of rooting, that kind of thing. If you don't have any other crowd control, then yeah, maybe I thought to myself I'd be a bit more comfortable with that. So it's a case of wanting to throw myself into the grouping, the grouping arena, because I think I'd have a load of fun, just meeting people, experiencing. I haven't really experienced dungeons, which is just ridiculous when you consider probably over the course of the last 15 years or so how much time I've put into EverQuest. Not to experience a pretty key part of the game. It's just bloody ridiculous. So I'm trying to put myself in that position where I'm going to do that. And as I said, I do know that I do like sort of sitting at the back of the party, looking at what's going on and orchestrating certain things from there. So the Cleric will maybe give me the option to do that. I'm almost level 4 actually. I've only gained about a level and a half on my own. The other 2.5 levels were for handing in bone chips, so that's pretty awesome. That kind of might see me up to, maybe if I keep killing skeletons, maybe my sort of level 9 set of spells or something. I'm not sure if it's as long lasting as the ones for the Gnoll fangs, but you get a lot more bone chips, of course. I mean, on the Gnolls, the teeth seem to be quite a rare drop. And you had to farm them quite seriously, but with the bone chips, obviously every skeleton drops a bloody bone chip generally. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. I've been getting more and more into the whole EverQuest Next thing recently. Level 1 Undercon did a super video with some sort of opinions on it, and I've kind of been reading a bit more about it and sort of listening to what people have got to say. I had a few comments on my last video about it as well. One of the things that's been cropping up for people that I've noticed that people are concerned about is class roles. It's quite a big thing, because I think the original EverQuest here, if you think about it, was kind of designed by D&D players. Really, that's my opinion. In D&D, roles are quite defined. You've kind of got a group. D&D is designed around being in a group. You probably couldn't solo anything. That's just not how it worked. And I think EverQuest to a certain extent was designed around that as well. And up until now, even as someone who hasn't really been interested in, or has been a bit scared of grouping, I think even I quite like the idea that there are certain characters that have a specific role and they can't do everything. I mean, in MMOs nowadays, it seems to be that designs where everyone can solo. Well, there's bloody crag chicks. I'm up to level 4. I was up to level 3 just now, and the crag chicks are still yellow to me. So their level range seems to be quite expansive. That one's white now, even con. Yeah, but that was one of the things that, as I said, seemed to sort of be concern people, and I think a lot of old EverQuest players. I mean, I don't have, even as someone who doesn't group a lot, I don't have a problem with there being classes that are like old D&D, first, second edition, that are designed around a specific thing. A warrior is just not particularly good at anything unless he's in a group. That's fine. He's brilliant at that. He doesn't need to be able to solo his way through the whole game. Same with the Cleric. Cleric brilliant at healing, doesn't need to be able to solo particularly. It's not a requirement. It may not even be possible. I think that's a good idea. I think it's quite good that there are certain classes that have a specific role. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not sure that the devs will see it that way. I think possibly what we'll see is maybe a game where the classes can do. They are self-sufficient. That just seems to be the MMO model. I think probably since World of Warcraft to a certain extent. That just the way it is. It's I guess it seems to be what people want. I mean, Warcraft was so popular. I guess you couldn't really argue. you couldn't really say, well, this is not what people want. It's what us old gits want probably, but not what the majority want. So I think you've probably got to we've probably got to accept the fact that there might be some of that going on in the game. All the classes will be capable of doing more than just a specific role, and I guess that's fine. It's the MMO market is so competitive that yeah, I guess to a certain extent you've got to go for some of that cash, I mean, if you look at City of Heroes, for example, I mean, they seem to close that down. I think that was probably political more than anything else, the City of Heroes closure. But that seemed to be making money to a certain extent, But they obviously it wasn't. Well, I say that, as I said, I think it was maybe more of a political or cultural thing. That was. I think it was probably a situation where a Korean company had to make cuts. It didn't, because I think it was a Korean company that was running it in the end. Had to make cuts. They didn't want to cut their own games, the homegrown games, and I can understand that's fair enough. So they ended up cutting I think the game that still had I think the American developers, I think it was, wasn't it? So yeah, or an American sort of created game, derived game. So yeah, you've got to be careful. It's you've got to have a model where you're going to make money. The game's got to be designed so it's going to be popular, and I think probably we'll see things that maybe we're not too happy about, but it's. I think probably things like death penalties, experience penalties, are a thing of the past. Corpse recoveries, I don't know. Again, a thing of the past. It's a difficult decision to make for Sony, because I would imagine the people at the moment who are more interested in playing EverQuest are the people who play EverQuest or played the old EverQuest. Now, I think probably EverQuest Live, I guess, has probably changed a lot of these things already. It's got rid of a lot of those inconveniences. Holy smoke! That the old game had. So maybe for people looking at EQ Next, maybe it's to a certain extent you might see a similar model to what we've currently got in EverQuest Live or EverQuest 2. Maybe maybe that's the way it will go. But I do hope they keep the flavour, the tone of Noraf and its sort of surrounding continents, because I love looking at EverQuest even now. It's and that's the most important thing, I think, in art design, graphic design in a game. It's just the style, the architecture, the style, the sort of the atmosphere, the character. I still love EverQuest. I mean, just look at the goblins; they're awesome. I don't think any other game has a character design that EverQuest has. Even now, it's awesome. And some of the cities and the zones, the way they're designed, there's a certain thing there. I can't quite sure put my finger on it, but there's a certain style that I find attractive even now, and I love looking at some of the EverQuest zones and the characters. Skeletons are awesome. I love skeletons. It's just a pile of bones, but they're unlike any other skeletons in any other game, any other MMO. Just really character focused. A lot of charm, I think, is the word that I'm looking for. So I'm hoping that the game at least keeps that EverQuest charm. I wasn't too keen on the screenshot I saw. I don't like the Dallas style armor and look of something like World of Warcraft. I don't want my mage or whatever to have massive shoulder pads. I mean, how impractical would that be? I mean, come on. Come on, Blizzard. How could you cast a spell with those sort of shoulder pads? You couldn't. Just nonsense. And maybe they might say that they're just breaking from the norm, but I just think it looks stupid. I mean, one of the big things about an MMO, obviously, is the fact that it's your progression, and that includes also equipment, and you want to see that progression reflected on your character. If you get a nice piece of armour, you want it to show up, but I don't want to look like Sue Ellen. There's no need for that. It's just completely unnecessary. The other thing, sort of, I think is quite important, is from a game mechanics point of view. I'm not sure if I'm going to explain myself very well, but EverQuest is very different from all of the other games, or the games that I've played. Now, I could be wrong, but I think one of the things that makes EverQuest is that it doesn't have an in-combat state. Nothing changes when you're in combat. I think with quite a lot of games, a lot of things change when you're in combat. There's an out of combat state and an in combat state, and for some games there are certain things you can't do in combat, and things like your health regeneration changes, your mana regeneration changes. And what I like about EverQuest is that there isn't an in and out of combat state. So I noticed it as an enchanter more than anything else. If I crowd controlled something and sat down, essentially it was the same as if I was sitting down out of combat. The creature was mesmerised. It was still aggressive towards me, but I could also manipulate it in sort of many other ways. I could sort of wipe its memory so it didn't attack me anymore. It just sort of forgot about me. I could keep it sort of mesmerised and sort of debuff and summon a pet and just do all sorts of things that other games kind of took those options away from you. I'm not quite sure why, but I think that's one of the key. I'm not sure if anyone's thought about it before, but for me, I'm sure they have. God bloody hell, Bob. You big-headed git. You're not the only one to think about it, I'm sure. But yeah, the fact that there isn't really an in and an out of combat state in the game, I think that's quite key to how the game works. Because as I said, some games do put a restriction on you for certain things when you're in combat. But EverQuest is so free from that. I think it's not particularly complicated. But I think because of that, because you can pretty much do anything, whatever state you can do anything with your spells, no matter what state you currently appear to be in the game or that you are in. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes everything just more free. There's the way you manipulate the world and the mobs and stuff. I thought it's weird. I only kind of thought about it since I played the Enchanted because I think it's more noticeable. But yeah, that's quite a big thing. I think the fact that there isn't a specific in combat state and out of combat state. The fact that you can crowd control a mob and take yourself out of combat and it's all the same. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm sort of eloquent enough to explain what I mean. I know what I mean, but I'm not sure if I'm putting it across particularly well. But yeah, that's quite a big thing because I'm quite a game mechanics buff. I always have been. I quite like to, and that's the amazing thing. I've never really grouped too much, or why. It's amazing that I haven't. Because I think the whole group mechanic, the group setup changes the game mechanic so much. And I've always been interested in it, but just been a bit wary of it. Maybe this character will sort of allow me to explore that a bit more. And also, what I'm hoping with this character, with the experiment of it, is to sort of look a bit further into the psychology of grouping, and why people like myself may find it a bit averse to it. Why that is, what hang-ups sort of cause that. So yeah, that'll be quite interesting. Maybe we'll have to see how we go with that. Psychology and gaming. That's what a combination. I think the other thing, I don't know if I explained the combat mechanic thing particularly well, but certainly it's something that I've noticed playing the game against other MMOs. The other thing as well, I think, is that I think one of the things that affected MMOs particularly is that storying. I mean, as someone who used to work for a developer and was kind of involved in that kind of thing, developers nowadays seem to want to strive to make their games like films. The story is as important or more important than the gameplay. The acting. They want to be more like books and films, and I've always thought that I'm not particularly sure that's the best way to go from a gaming point of view. I mean, if you look at some of the best games with the best playability, they're probably going to be from a purely gaming aspect. They're probably going to be 2D games created quite a long time ago. Because that's all the focus was on. If you took a shoot 'em up or a platform game, you'd get Mario and there'd be a bit of a story there, but the main focus is on the gameplay, and I think that's why they were so good. I think the focus has changed now, where developers are too worried about the story. They're too worried about spending millions of pounds on on motion capture and actors and that kind of thing. And I personally think that's the wrong way to go. I think gameplay has suffered because of it. I think gameplay has suffered in MMOs as well because of it. If you look at EverQuest does have a rich backstory. If you go and sort of hail characters around town, they'll talk to you. There's plenty to read about it. But they almost didn't need a story because I think the world design was so full of character. And so amazing, but I also think that the combat works so well partly is because that was the focus of the game. Your interaction with your opponent, how it works and how it's balanced was the main focus of the game. or was one of the key elements. Whereas nowadays it gets the gaming seems to have got to that point where single player gaming, particularly where it's all about the story. If you look at BioShock, I actually think BioShock Infinite recently. I thought that the first BioShock game was brilliant. I love the gameplay, but it seems to have changed over a period of time to where the gameplay has kind of come second, because the gameplay in BioShock Infinite, personally, I found a bit average. I haven't finished the game yet, mainly because of that, because I'm more focused on the gameplay mechanics than story generally, unless it's particularly good. I mean, give BioShock Infinite its credit. The story is actually pretty good. It's it's the best of an average bunch. It's sort of probably one of the best that I've come across. But unfortunately, that sort of, I think that took precedence over the gameplay. I think the gameplay suffered because of it. I kind of find the gameplay in BioShock a bit average, whereas what I wanted from a new BioShock game was an expansion on the combat from sort of the first two games. But it didn't get that, and I think that's flowed over into EverQuest. If you look at a game like Lord of the Rings Online, for example, which I like and I still play, and obviously with Tolkien you can't go wrong, but I do feel that maybe partly the quest design and those kind of aspects of game design have taken over from the gameplay. Maybe certainly I'm seeing that in single player games anyway, and I think to a certain extent MMOs. Story is it's quite important, but it's not the most important. Surely it's got to be how the game plays, and I think the games industry as a whole, in this drive to make games, I'm not even sure what it is. In this drive to make games more cinematic, I think there was a period where game developers and the gaming press wanted games to be taken more seriously. So I think what they that's the angle that they went for. They want the story just to be of a higher quality, because they think that will make games more accepted. I don't think games are particularly really still accepted as a sort of mainstream media by a lot of people. But I think that was part of the problem. I think it got to a point where game developers and journalists and people in the industry got fed up with games not being taken seriously. They wanted to be taken seriously as books and cinema and that kind of thing. And I think the way they felt they should do that is to make the stories more richer, more interesting. But surely with a game, ultimately it's got to be all about the interaction mostly. And how you're interacting with the world. Surely that's the most important thing. I think they've got that to a certain extent, and I think that's why EverQuest is so tightly designed. Is that I think it feels as though the gameplay and the mechanics were the main emphasis, whereas maybe that's not the case anymore. But yeah, that's I'm just full of opinions today. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. I think that, and I think that. It's I'm sure. I'm sure if I was a bigger channel and I had a lot more subscribers for a video like this, you'd get a whole lot more flack. Well, I don't agree with you, and so maybe it's a good idea that I don't have too many subscribers, and we generally all seem to kind of feel the same way generally about gaming. I'm sure it's probably an age thing, maybe. But yeah, I think I'll probably end this video here. I've been rambling quite a lot, and as I say, I've been a bit more opinionated than I normally am in games. In videos. I don't quite like that. I don't want to attract too much attention. But maybe it's quite interesting sometimes to give your thoughts. But I think the general gist is that we all want EverQuest Next to just hopefully stick to the character and the flavour of EverQuest as much as possible. You know what? I wouldn't even particularly want a super duper graphics engine, really. As I said, I mean, I love the EverQuest graphics engine. I love the art style. I'm sure we will probably get one, and that was one of the things I was worried about. As I said, that sort of screenshot seemed to show a warrior type character with big shoulder pads, and I suppose that's fine for a warrior. If you're a tank, yeah, that's fine. But let's not give our wizards and our magicians massive shoulder pads and stuff. It's just impractical casting spells. How can you wave your hands about when you've got massive shoulder pads. It just doesn't work. But I'm going to stop now because I'm rambling. I hope you enjoyed the video, and maybe we'll see a bit more of Folly in the future. Maybe it'll be a bit of a series, but yeah, don't count on it. but I will be back in EverQuest in some form at some point soon. So thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.